We are in order. For roll call, and I know there's a couple people, at least one person still in transit, but for roll call, we have Ms. Jones, Dr. Swaney, Ms. Cares, myself, Mr. Von Lossberg, Ms. Bentley, and Ms. Armstrong. We have minutes to approve from the meeting on August 14th. Are there any changes to those or corrections? Seeing none, they are approved. And for the record, Jordan Hess is also here. Okay. Is there any public comment on items that are not on the agenda tonight? If so, come on up to the mic, say your name for the record, and keep your comments to 3 minutes or less.
That sounds great. My name is Jesse Ramos. I live at 425 Whitaker Drive. I'm running for City Council in Ward 4. Just want to come talk to you guys today. I had the privilege of meeting with Presidential Cabinet Member and Secretary of Veterans Affairs David Shulkin in Helena. David Shulkin has served as the Secretary under both Obama and President Trump and is highly respected on both sides of the aisle. I commended him on the progress that has been made for veterans at the national level, and I just asked him what could be done more at the local level. I told David that Missoula had $184 million of total appropriations for fiscal year 2018 and didn't have a single set allocated specifically to veterans. I told the Secretary that this seemed a little bit bizarre because Missoula County had the highest veteran suicide rate in the state of Montana, and the state of Montana had the highest veteran suicide rate in the entire country. And we don't even have a veterans coordinator. David agreed with me that municipalities really need to chip in to help out the federal government because, as you know, the VA is expanding and making a clinic here in Missoula, but that won't be enough, and they can use all the help they can get. We have the largest budget ever passed in the history of Missoula right now, and we spend money on all kinds of different things. And the fact that we don't have anything allocated to veterans leads me to believe that you guys think that all the things that we're spending money on right now is more important to you than helping the men and women that have served our country and fought for our freedoms. I think you should all listen to the Secretary and the words he had to say. Once again, I come before you just to ask to consider a Veterans Advisory Council. I just found out they have one in Williston, North Dakota, and it works really well. They just have a team of local veterans, and they meet with the city council weekly or bi-weekly, and they just tell them some of the issues that are affecting them and some of the services that are out there so you can get those folks in touch with them. Just thank you for your time and consideration on this matter.
Thank you, Mr. Ramos. Is there any more public comment on items not on the agenda?
Did we skip the consent agenda? I didn't. Okay.
We're on public comments not on the agenda.
Okay. Reading again from the 1936 to 39 comment on psychopolitics, the Soviet art of brainwashing, psychopolitics, mental healing, and as read into the record on the Un-American Activities Committee. Excuse me. The psychopolitician's realm of defamation and degradation is man himself. By attacking the character and morals of man himself, and by bringing about, through contamination of youth, a general degraded feeling, command of the populace is facilitated to a marked degree. There is a curve of degradation that leads downward to a point where the endurance of an individual is also almost at an end, and any sudden action toward him will place him in a state of shock. Similarly, a soldier held prisoner can be abused, denied, defamed, degraded until the slightest motion on the part of his captors will cause him to flinch. Similarly, the slightest word on the part of his captors will cause him to obey or vary his loyalties and beliefs. Given sufficient degradation, a prisoner can be caused to murder his fellow countrymen in the same stockade. Experiments on German prisoners have lately demonstrated that after 70 days of filthy food, little sleep, and nearly untenable quarters, the least motion toward the prisoner will bring about a state of shock beyond his endurance and will cause him to receive hypnotically anything said to him.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment on items not on the agenda? Seeing none, Ms. Rayboyne pointed out that I hustled right past scheduling this week's committee meetings, so let's go ahead and do that. Ms. Rayboyne?
Thank you. We have a really short committee schedule this coming Wednesday. Parks and Conservation Committee will meet Wednesday the 23rd from 8:30 in the morning to 9:45. Land Use and Planning will meet from 9:50 to 10 a.m. And Administration and Finance Committee is going to meet from 10:05 to 10:20. All those meetings will be held right here in the City Council chambers.
Council members, do any committee chairs or anyone have any revisions to those? Okay, seeing none, that will be our committee schedule for this Wednesday. All right, now, just reviewing my agenda. Now, we're going to go to the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda were approved in City Council committees by a unanimous vote. We save time at council meetings by voting on these items as a package. The city clerk will read the list aloud so citizens watching on MCAT will know what is on the consent agenda, and we'll invite community comment on these items before we vote. Ms. Rayboyne?
Thanks. Tonight's consent agenda has 10 items, and the first, as always, is to approve claims, which are the city's accounts payable in the amount of $2,287,647.75 for checks that are dated August 22nd, 2017. Number 2 is to confirm the mayor's appointment of Natasha Princing-Jones to the Missoula Redevelopment Agency Board for a term that commences immediately and expires on April 30th, 2021. Number 3 is to adopt a resolution of the Missoula City Council notifying the Missoula County Election Administrator of the city's desire to conduct the 2017 city general election by mail ballot in accordance with state law, located in 1319-202. And setting the date for ballots to be mailed and requesting ballot drop-off locations for voters who prefer to mark and or drop off their ballots at a polling location or a polling site. Number 4 is to approve an agreement to provide a 90-day extension of the deadline for executing the collateral agreements with the Fox Site Master Development Agreement between the City of Missoula, Hotel Fox Partners, LLC, and the Missoula Redevelopment Agency, and authorize all appropriate city signatures thereon. Number 5 is to adopt a resolution declaring the official intent of the City of Missoula, Montana to reimburse certain original expenditures related to sidewalk, curb, gutter, and alley approach improvements from the proceeds of tax-exempt bonds to be issued by the city after the payment of such original expenditures. Number 6 is to adopt a resolution declaring the city's official intent to reimburse certain original expenditures related to the purchase of capital equipment from the proceeds of tax-exempt bonds to be issued by the city after the payment of such original expenditures. Number 7 is to set a public hearing on September 11th, 2017 on a resolution to levy a special assessment and tax upon all property situated within pooled sidewalk, curb, gutter, and alley approach bonds series 2017 of the City of Missoula, Montana to defray the cost of installing sidewalks, curbs, gutters, and alley approaches, and return this matter to the Administration and Finance Committee. Number 8 is to direct the Development Services staff to no longer publish the list of registered tourist homes on the city's website. Number 9 is to adopt a resolution relating to Margaret Street Phase 2 project 2015-016 of the city's sidewalk, curb, gutter, and alley approach program, approving the final ordering in of the improvements. Number 10 is also related to that item. It's to award the bid for curb and sidewalk improvements in that project on Margaret Street Phase 2 to H&M Concrete, or HM Concrete of Missoula, for the sum of $203,916.07, and authorize the return of bid bonds.
Are there any public comments on any of the items on the consent agenda?
And I want to correct myself. I was talking about the meetings.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, then
not the
I should have
consent.
listened to you then.
I'm sorry. And I would stand, I don't think we've had a mayoral election by mail-in ballot, and I don't want anything like that. That's my view on the mail-in ballot. I know you have a right to do that, but I think that when the mayor's office and the voting for mayor comes, we should all get out and go to our polling places. Thank you.
And for the record, that was Candy Matthew Jenkins. Any other comments? Questions from council? Okay, let's do a roll call vote.
On the consent agenda, items 1 through 10, Armstrong. Armstrong votes yes. Bentley. Bentley votes yes. Cares. Cares votes yes. Hess. Hess votes yes. Jones. Jones votes yes. Marlar.
Yes.
Marlar votes yes. Sweeney. Sweeney votes yes. And Von Lossberg. Von Lossberg votes yes. Would any of you like to change your vote? That is 8 ayes and 4 absent.
Just writing a note. Next on the agenda is when we usually do comments from city staff, agencies, boards, commissions, authorities, and the community forum, but I am unaware of any of those. Is anyone here to give one of those presentations? Okay, we'll move on to special presentations, of which we have one, which is a joint proclamation from Mayor Engen and the Missoula Board of County Commissioners, and I will read it in the voice of all 4 people since I'm chairing this meeting. But that's who it's from, and I'm happy to read this into the record. Whereas the University of Montana, located in Missoula, has been the seat of learning for thousands of men and women, and whereas these former students have moved on and honored this institution by being successful in their endeavors and their contributions to society, and whereas this was made possible through the care, guidance, and mentoring received from university faculty, staff, and administrators, and whereas retired faculty, staff, and administrators gather today to celebrate their university careers, now therefore we, Mayor of the City of Missoula and the Missoula Board of County Commissioners, hereby jointly proclaim August 23rd, 2017 as UM Retirees Day, and invite all citizens to join in recognizing the University of Montana retirees and the contributions made by these individuals to the lives of all students and the well-being of society. Is anyone here to receive this proclamation or speak to it? Okay. Moving on to public hearings. State law and city council rules set guidelines for inviting community comment in a formal way on certain issues. Following a staff report on each item, the city council and the mayor invite community comment. The city council normally votes on the same night as the public hearing, unless one city council member requests that it be returned to a city council committee for further consideration. And tonight we have two public hearings, and the first one is on the two resolutions on the acquisition of Creekside Apartments and conduit financing through the city. And we have a staff report from Dale Bickle. And we have representatives from Homeward in the office and from the Housing and Community Development Office. Mr. Bickle.
Good evening, Dale Bickle, Chief Administrative Officer. All I'm going to do tonight is introduce Andrea Davis and Matt Joseph with Homeward, who are going to give a PowerPoint presentation related to the project. Though I would like to remind council and the public that this is a conduit debt issuance, so there is no liability to the city. The mechanism that we're using is it allows for certain nonprofit organizations to piggyback on the county's or the city's tax-exempt status, and so Homeward is able to acquire these Creekside apartments at tax-exempt interest rates and without any liability to the city.
Let me see if I can get this in slideshow mode. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Thanks. I have an older version at my office. Good evening, everyone. President Marler and members of council. Thank you. Thank you for being here for quorum. I really appreciate it. And a real special shout out to City Clerk Marty Rabine for making sure that we could have this public hearing this evening. We wanted to briefly speak to the need for this housing. Oh, introduce myself. Sorry. I know. I think it's the first time I've been up here. My name is Andrea Davis, and I'm the Executive Director of Homeward. Thanks, Jim. So Homeward uses sustainable methods to provide safe, healthy housing that people can afford, and we strengthen community through housing counseling and education for those in need. I think I need to do this manually. So a little bit about us. Homeward is a community housing development organization. We are a nonprofit that's been serving Montana since 1994. We're headquartered here in Missoula. We do affordable housing development work around the state, and we have a homeownership center here in Missoula. And that's where we provide our housing counseling and education. I thought I'd share a little bit about housing and financial issues for Montanans and related this a little bit to the specificity of our city here. So we have high home costs. That is the reality here in Missoula. It's the reality actually across the state as we do affordable housing work in small and large communities in the state of Montana. We conducted a market study when we were preparing to build our Sweetgrass Commons property at the old sawmill district, and that was published in 2015. And at the time, a two-bedroom average rental in the city of Missoula was $905. So we have a wage to housing issue, and it's not one or the other. Both of these issues in our community need to be addressed. But in order to afford that $905 of rental, one would need to earn $17.42 an hour. But the mean wage in our community is about $11 an hour. So that leaves a pretty significant gap when it comes to being able to afford a market rate two-bedroom. In the state of Montana, unfortunately, we are one of the highest states in terms of lack of savings, and a lot of us live paycheck to paycheck. It's hard to read up on the screen, but what that chart shows you, the one on the right-hand side, shows that the minimum wage for Montana is $8.15 an hour. That might be a retail worker or a retiree, a single parent, a person with a disability, or a recent graduate. An affordable rent, when you earn $8.15 an hour, would be $424 a month. And the average rent, and this is county statistics that was reported in the 2016 Missoula Organization of Realtor, is $769. So that I want to point out, and people say, well, how come your market rate says $905? That was the city of Missoula, and those were market conventional rates. That $769 figure is Missoula County-wide, and it also includes Homeward's affordable properties in there. So there's certainly some impact in terms of that number. Regardless, there's still a gap in that chart. 47% of Missoulians spend over 30% of their income on rent. 30% is what's considered affordable when you pay 30% of your income towards rent or mortgage. And then half of those spend over 50%. The area median income for a single person living in Missoula is $42,815. But in order to afford a median-priced home, the household would need to earn $89,916. So this just illustrates that we have an affordable housing, I'd say probably on the verge of crisis in our community, and we do in much of Montana and much of the United States, actually. Missoula is a great place to live, and that can make it an expensive place to live. In the December of 2016, the Missoulian reported that the skyrocketing price of housing was the biggest economic story in Missoula of 2016. 52% of Missoulians are renters, and that's significant. Over half of our community are renters. And like I mentioned earlier, 47% of Missoulians spend over 30% of their income on housing. Half of those spend over 50%. And another interesting fact here is that in the 2017 Missoula Organization of Realtors report, there is a large disparity between the area median income of Missoula's homeowners, $63,000, and renters, which is about $28,000. So this is just basically proving the point that affordable rentals are necessary for our workforce. So along comes the opportunity of Creekside Apartments, an existing property located at 1405 East Broadway. There's 161 total apartments, and there's a number of community amenities there, including a swimming pool, playground, basketball court, clubhouse, on-site laundry for residents, a fitness center and leasing center, and then there's some optional garage spaces that residents can lease. The apartment amenities include dishwasher, balcony, or patio, additional storage space, and air conditioning. The opportunity came up because the property came up for sale in May of this year. The offering memorandum was pretty clear that they were looking for top bids from all over the country. We saw this as an opportunity to acquire and preserve 160 apartments with affordable rents. There is one manager's unit, that's what makes it 161, but 160 of those apartments are rent capped at 60% of the area median income. Creekside has studio 1s, 2s, and 3-bedroom apartments, so a really nice range of apartment sizes. And then I included some examples up there for the audience and for all of you on council that 60% of the area median income equates to $27,720 for a single person. So that's about $13 an hour. And if you open the paper, that's quite a few jobs in both the service industry, but also several beginning professional jobs, personal care attendants, bank tellers, any number of positions in our community. A 4-person household at 60% of the area median income is a little less than $40,000, or if it's a single earning person in that household, that would be about $19 an hour. So if you've got a single parent with 3 children, then they would income qualify at 60% of the area median income, earning that wage. So the rents at Creekside are set for the 60% area median income level, and so they range approximately $600 to $1,000 a month. And so they're anywhere, depending on the unit size, 25 to 40% under market. 33% of the apartments that are occupied at Creekside, residents utilize a Section 8 voucher. It's one of the larger properties in the community that welcome Section 8 holders and meet the Section 8 voucher payment standards. So location, location, location. It's located on the Clark Fork River along a walking trail. It's near several trails, open space, and parks. It's near the new Missoula College, just blocks away. It's across the river from the University of Montana. It's close to downtown Missoula, near schools, grocery stores, and other services. And Mountain Line has a bus stop along East Broadway, as well as the university's bus system just right down the road. So it's got public transportation in close proximity. The property was built in 1996, and it already is an affordable housing deed restricted property. Like I mentioned, 160 of the units are at 60% of the area median income, and that deed restriction is set to expire in 9 years, in 2026. The property is also eligible for what's known as a qualified contract, and there's a mechanism within the low-income housing tax credit law that would allow a buyer to take this out of the affordability pool. And I won't bother you with the nuances of that, but this property was ripe for that opportunity. Partly because of the location, its proximity to downtown and proximity to necessary student housing, as well as trails and open space. This was a pretty prime candidate to drive this property into market rate housing. The Montana Board of Housing estimates that for the last 10 years, in the state of Montana, we've produced about 200 low-income housing tax credit units on an annual basis in the entire state. This property is 160 units, so had we lost this either now or in 9 years to market rate conventional, that would be a pretty devastating blow for the state as well as our community. As Dale outlined for you all, we're utilizing a city 501c3 conduit bond, which allows a private placement with a financial institution. That financial institution is First Security Bank. And that is basically, they serve as the lender, and there then is no risk to the city or taxpayers. The loan is secured by real estate, just like a typical mortgage. I think what is really exciting for us is this is the first time Homeward has worked with the city of Missoula or any city to do a 501c3 conduit bond. I want to thank First Security Bank actually for their suggestion, and then city staff Dale Bickle and Aaron Pehan for seeing that this was a very viable option for us to generate the necessary financing to acquire the property and act very quickly. We had to put an offer on the property, sign a purchase and sale agreement, and close within 60 days in order to compete with our for-profit national competitors. And we were able to do that. And so Homeward's intention here is to acquire the property and keep it as affordable. So really nothing is changing other than we're ensuring that these units last into perpetuity for our community. So with that, I am available for any questions you might have.
Thank you. Are there any more portions to the staff presentation, Mr. Bickle? Okay. I will open the public hearing. If anyone would like to come forward and say anything about this project, this is the time. Come up to the mic, make sure that you say your name, and then try to keep your comments to 3 minutes or less.
I'm Jana Staten. I'm actually here on behalf of the Faith and Justice class, which I'll ask to rise. This is only a small part of our big class. We're studying housing this year because First United Methodist Church is a host church for Family Promise. So we shelter people who are homeless. 4 people out of 40 families at a time can go to Family Promise, so that's a small drop in the bucket. And we're interested in seeing that those families have a place to go at the end of the Family Promise stay, so they don't just keep coming back through us. So we are very committed to studying housing and supporting the City of Missoula and the City Council in certainly keeping Creekside as a affordable housing for the future, perpetuity if possible, and we would like to see more efforts like this so that we increase the housing supply because we know how tight it is. So thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question, I think. I don't know if you can answer it, but does the being nonprofit take these apartments off the city tax rolls? I would like to know if that does it. And the comment made about the single parent with 3 children, I hope that was a slip of the tongue and it was a divorced mom with 3 kids, or are we supporting promiscuity too?
Additional public comments.
Good evening, City Council members, Marilyn. My name is Kathy Dayshaw, and I just wanted to also add that I'm a member of the First United Methodist Church, and we are going through major renovations. So we don't have the space that we normally would. If there's also other options maybe that the community can look at to help with people that we may not have room for, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional public comments?
Jesse Ramos, 425 Whitaker Drive. Just wanted to come up and say that this sounds like a pretty good project, and I usually oppose projects that compete directly with the private sector, but it seems like if this is done properly, that both sides can benefit, both the private sector and the government, and a lot of folks can get the affordable housing that they need. So I enjoy this project. Thank you, guys.
All right. Is there any other public comment? Don't be shy. All right, I am going to close the public hearing, and we'll have questions from City Council. Ms. Cares.
Ms. Davis, could you address the question that was presented by the public around taxes, property taxes? Thank you.
Andrea Davis, Ms. Cares, I'd be happy to. So this property currently pays taxes, and while a property like this with nonprofit ownership would allow us to restructure the rents and take it off the tax rolls, we are not. It will continue to stay on the tax rolls and continue to pay taxes at this time. You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, I don't see any more questions or public comment, so Ms. Cares.
There are two. I move we adopt a resolution relating to a project on behalf of Creekside Apartments, LLC, a Montana limited liability company, and the issuance of revenue bonds or notes to finance the cost of acquisition of a multifamily rental housing project commonly known as Creekside Apartments and associated cost under Montana Code Annotated Title 90, Chapter 5, Part 1 as amended, approving the project and authorizing the issuance of bonds or notes thereof. I also move that we adopt a resolution authorizing a project under Montana Code Annotated Title 9, Chapter 5, Part 1 as amended, and the issuance and sale of $10,312,500 in multifamily housing revenue bonds, the Creekside Apartments Projects, Series 2017, to finance the same, approving the form of documentation in connection therewith, and authorizing the execution and delivery of the bonds and documentation.
Thanks. Those motions are both in order. Is there discussion on these motions? Mr. Von Lossberg and then Mr. Hess.
Thanks. I just briefly wanted to say thank you to the folks at First Security Bank and especially to the folks at Homeward, Ms. Davis. She covered a lot of important data in the presentation, both in committee and tonight. And I'm just really pleased that we can continue to see we'll continue to see this resource both in Ward 1 and in the city to serve these needs for affordable housing. So very supportive.
Mr. Hess.
Thanks. I'd also like to commend city staff and Homeward staff, Ms. Davis, and the folks at First Security Bank for this innovative approach. Homeward is no stranger to innovating, and it's very exciting to have such a great community partner that does such good work in our community.
Additional comments? I'll add my thanks to everyone involved. Yeah, thank you. And I think that we are ready to vote. Let's have a roll call vote on both motions, and unless someone wants to split them, which I don't think. No, so we'll vote on both motions.
Okay, on the motion to approve both resolutions, Armstrong? Armstrong votes yes. Bentley votes yes. Cares votes yes. Hess votes yes. Jones votes yes. Marler?
Yes.
Marler votes yes. Swaney votes yes. And Von Lossberg votes yes. Would anybody like to change your vote? That is 8 ayes and 4 absent.
Great. That was a great piece of business, and so is the next one, which is about the conservation easement proposed for the Oxbow Cattle Company. And we'll start the staff report with Ms. Erickson.
Thank you, President Marler. I just want to reiterate the thanks to all of you for being here tonight, making it possible to have our public hearing. Good evening. I'm Elizabeth Erickson, the city's open space acquisitions attorney, and I'm very excited to get to help present the Oxbow Cattle Company open space bond proposal. And the request is to expend up to $175,000 of the city's portion of the 2006 open space bond to help purchase this conservation easement and pay part of the transaction costs. And the project is sponsored by Five Valleys Land Trust, and I'm going to turn it over to Vicki Edwards, the Conservation Project Manager with Five Valleys, to tell you details about the project.
Thank you. Ms. Edwards.
Thank you. Let me just put the presentation up here real quickly. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, and I would also like to thank you all for being here tonight. I know it was challenging for folks to get together and have a quorum this evening, so I do appreciate everyone being here. And my name is Vicki Edwards. I am a project manager for Five Valleys Land Trust, and that means I am fortunate to work with landowners on placing conservation easements on their properties to protect special places within our community that provide a substantial amount of public benefit. And I'm really pleased to present to you all the Oxbow Cattle Company Miller Creek Conservation Easement. This is a conservation easement on approximately 168 acres in the lower Miller Creek area. It's within the Missoula planning region. The conservation values associated with this property include open space for continued agricultural production, open space for conserving important agricultural soils, and then also fish and wildlife habitat. And as Elizabeth mentioned, we are requesting up to $175,000 to help us complete this project. Fortunately, we have already secured funding through the Natural Resources Conservation Services Program, the Agricultural Land Easement Program, which is also called ALE. And we have already secured $165,000 that'll go towards the conservation easement for this project. Five Valleys Land Trust will make a contribution as well, and so will the landowners. And so with that, I'll first touch on just introduce Bart and Wendy Morris, and you'll actually get to hear from Wendy Morris during the public comment period of this presentation. And Bart and Wendy Morris own Oxbow Cattle Company. Oxbow Cattle Company, as many of you probably know, is our locally natural grass finish cattle company here in the Missoula Valley. And they started their business a few years ago and have really integrated, not only in providing locally grown beef here in the Missoula Valley, but then also integrating within the community and having opportunities and working with folks on all of the great work that they do. And they have just such an amazing land ethic. They're quite the stewards of the land. Even those lands that they end up leasing, they've done a lot of work on those where they replace fencing, put in wildlife-friendly fencing, and they really want to leave this place in a better place than what it is now. And for those reasons, they would like to place a conservation easement on a portion of their ranch. And as I mentioned, you'll get a chance to hear from Wendy a little later here. This project connects in with other conserved lands as well. On this map, the kind of light colored tan, white, that's private lands. Those lands that have horizontal blue lines through them, those have conservation easements on them that are held by Five Valleys Land Trust. There are other conservation easements held by other land trust and entities as well, and those are in the gray with the horizontal lines. And other land ownership on this map includes the Forest Service in green and Weyerhaeuser in the gray, and then we have some Nature Conservancy and some DNRC lands. But you could see in this lower Miller Creek area, this really provides a nice piece of the puzzle of expanding that conservation footprint within this area. And there is, on that south side of the property where that other conservation easement is, there's a ridge that runs through there that connects the northern sapphires across that ridge line over the Bitterroot and up into the hills going into the Weyerhaeuser lands as well as Forest Service. And this property would provide an additional buffer there from development. And when we look at a Google map of this property, you can really see that this march of development that's occurring and coming in from the city of Missoula. And this is really high risk for development, very vulnerable to it. And this would provide, on this property, there would be no residential development, and it would connect in with those other protected properties as well. And I also wanted to mention those two parcels, Bart and Wendy through Oxbow Cattle Company recently acquired those two parcels. There's approximately 145 acre parcel that they acquired, I believe it was about in April, and then the 28 acre parcel that they acquired just in June or July here. And so if for folks that were out on the property, it can only get better than what it is there, because now they own the land and there's the opportunity for them to do some great work on it. And so conservation values associated with this property, as I mentioned, include those important agricultural soils, open space for continued agricultural production, open space within a cornerstone, a portion of the property is within the Bitterroot cornerstone, and then also fish and wildlife habitat as well. And those important agricultural soils, we're looking at 92% important ag soils as mapped by the NRCS. Of those, 51 are farmland of local importance, and then we also have 104 acres that are prime farmland if irrigated. And Oxbow Cattle Company and Bart and Wendy, they actually have the most senior water rights on Miller Creek, and so there's a lot of great opportunity here to have to make this land as productive as possible. And then I also wanted to mention that in the information packet that Elizabeth sent out to you all, there's a letter of support from CFAC that speaks to those values and the important agricultural soils, but then also some of the work that Bart and Wendy has done with the community, including CFAC as well. And so that other conservation value, protecting that open space for continued agricultural production and ensuring that that opportunity continues into the future. And our other value is that a portion of it is located within the Bitterroot River cornerstone. And so this would help secure an additional parcel here that would not allow for any residential development or subdivision of those two parcels. And as per the 2006 open space plan, priorities there include conservation easements and acquisitions within these cornerstone areas. And the property includes a little over a mile of Miller Creek meandering through it. And as I mentioned, Bart and Wendy just recently acquired the properties and had leased it before that. And you can see that there's a lot of opportunity here to do some restoration work and some habitat enhancement along this riparian area of the creek. And the conservation easement would have a riparian buffer zone on it that is a total of 50 feet, 25 on each side. And one of the things about some of the impacts to this riparian area in the past, you know, it isn't just about cattle grazing. There's actually quite a few ungulates that have had an enormous amount of impact on the habitat on this property as well and elsewhere. And that includes a really robust elk population. There are approximately 200 elk that'll go down onto the property during the winter time. This is becoming more common winter range for those elk, but also whitetail deer and mule deer as well. And so there are opportunities to improve that riparian habitat. Now, Miller Creek is a West Slope cutthroat trout stream, and West Slope cutthroat trout are a species of concern in the state of Montana. If we look at I actually had a conversation with the fisheries biologist in this area, and he had mentioned that the upper portions of Miller Creek and some of those reaches still have genetically pure populations of West Slope cutthroat trout. And so being able to provide some connectivity here with the Bitterroot River up to those upper reaches would be very beneficial. And within the township and section of this property, when I pulled up the Montana Natural Heritage Program species of concern, threatened and endangered species, there were 18 total species within that township and range. And so this property would help protect many of those species. And the property is just outside of city limits, and so the Missoula County Growth Policy comes into play here. And this quote, when I was reading through the growth policy, a healthy agricultural sector is essential to the well-being of our community due to benefits such as food security, open space, wildlife habitat, economic activity, health promotion, and quality of life. And when I think about what Oxbow Cattle Company, what Bart and Wendy are trying to do with their business here in the Missoula Valley, as well as with this conservation easement, this really is one of those projects that is a showcase project that reflects everything that's described within this Missoula County growth policy. And this conservation easement would help ensure protecting those values. And so how would the easement protect those values? Well, there would be no home sites permitted on the 168 acres. There would be no subdivision either. So those two parcels would be sealed together and they would have to be sold as one. Also, because it is an NRCS agricultural land easement, there are minimum deed terms associated with that. And those terms are, for example, no more than 2% impervious soil or impervious surfaces on the entire property, and that includes paved roads or a hay shed that doesn't allow for water filtration into the soils. And so there are all other limitations as well. And I just want to mention this project really has been a showcase project for the NRCS for funding. It competed at a statewide level, and it was one of the top projects within the state. And I think part of that is not only for those important agricultural soils that program is set up to protect, but also just the risk of potential development on this parcel being so close to the cities of Missoula as well as Lolo. And so it really has become a showcase project for NRCS as well. And then, as I mentioned, that riparian buffer zone to protect Miller Creek, enhance that wildlife habitat, and also from a degradation standpoint as well, it'll help protect that stream. So just briefly looking over the budget here, total project costs are estimated about $374,000. As I'd mentioned, those transaction costs are running approximately $26,000. Five Valleys Land Trust is contributing, of course, our time, fundraising efforts, and all of that, and we do that through memberships and individual donations. And then the landowners are also contributing in cash to the project, and we have secured that $165,000 from NRCS, and we're requesting from the City of Missoula Open Space Bond Program $175,000 to help us complete this project. If funded, we're hoping to be able to close on this project the end of February or beginning of March of next year. And so with that, we hope that you will join us in protecting the special place. And I know Elizabeth would like to step up again and go over a few more things. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Erickson.
I just have a couple of additional details to add, which Vicki certainly covered substantively, but just to make sure we're covering all our bases with the requirements. The conservation easement accomplishes a number of the purposes of the bond, which are actually the language that was listed in the actual bond itself, ballot itself, which include conserving a working ranch, protecting wildlife habitat, providing open space and scenic landscape, protecting water quality of rivers, lakes, and streams, which include Miller Creek as well as the Bitterroot River nearby, and then paying the non-personnel related transaction and project related costs. The project is consistent with the goals of the city's 2006 open space plan and the city's open space ordinance. And the project received a unanimous recommendation from the city's Open Space Advisory Committee. And they met on July 13th, and their letter of support is attached in Sire. And finally, the current balance of the open space bond is just slightly over $492,000. The city's portion, which is a portion of the $5 million that went to the city. And if this project is approved at the requested funding amount, the balance will be just over $317,000, and that's based on the approved amounts of projects. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing.
Good evening. Thank you, council members, for considering this this proposal, and I have to apologize. I'm Wendy Morris of Bart and Wendy Morris of Oxbow Cattle Company. I have to apologize that Bart couldn't make it tonight. He had a family medical issue that he had to attend to. So my husband and I own Oxbow Cattle Company, and we produce grass-finished beef and provide it locally to our community. And we are in our 4th year of doing that, and it's been such a positive journey for us, mostly because of the Missoula community itself. I don't know that we would have been as successful in other communities because they really have embraced this healthy local meat that we're providing for our community. We sell it to grocery stores, restaurants, the farmers market, and direct to consumers. And we've become very passionate about providing local healthy food for our community. In that process, we had the opportunity to purchase this land, and 2 reasons. One, if we didn't purchase it, it would go to someone else that who knows what their intentions were, and we really value the opportunity to run our business right on the edge of Missoula. And so we felt strongly that it should continue in ag soils and help solidify our opportunity to provide this healthy food to Missoula. We've also seen the sprint of the development coming towards our land that we recently purchased. And on those maps that they showed, you could see all the development, but there was an open hillside just directly north of the property we bought that is slated already for 700 family unit homes. And so what we would really love to see is to stop that sprint of development at our property. As Vicki mentioned, there are important ag soils as well as wildlife habitat, and we have Miller Creek running through this property. So there are a lot of positive benefits to maintaining the spaces open and in agricultural production. Our goal is to be stewards of the land, and we're starting with land that needs some help and improvement, but we do feel like we can only go up. And our goal, while it's in our care, is to improve the land. The open space bond funds and our conservation easement will ensure that this land is kept open and available for these resources, ag production, wildlife, in perpetuity. But we really feel like ultimately this easement's not about us and what we're doing on the land. It really is beyond us and about what this land will be in perpetuity. And so we want those values and those things to stay with the land even when we're gone. So we also wanted to mention that we understand these are public dollars, and we don't take it lightly that that this money is funded from taxpayers, and we just really feel like the public benefit of what we're doing is not only the open space and the opportunity for ag production, but we also really try to engage the community and have people out to see what we're doing, and we're about as local a rancher as you can get to Missoula. So we'd like to maintain that for whoever wants to be in this space in the future. So thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Hi, I would like to echo Wendy's thanks for considering this proposal. My name is Kim Gilchrist, and I work for the Community Food and Agriculture Coalition, and I'm here on behalf of Annie Heiser. She was really hoping to make it this evening to emphasize our support for this project, but she couldn't be here, so I am going to read our letter of support instead. The Community Food and Agriculture Coalition is writing to urge your support of Five Valleys Land Trust's proposed conservation easement on the Morris property. CFAC is a strong advocate for the conservation of Missoula's most important agricultural soils. The Morris property is situated in an area with few remaining contiguous agricultural parcels, and the preservation of these is critical to the long-term viability of agriculture in the area. Conserving farmland helps protect our treasured rivers and riparian areas, provides essential ecosystem services, and contributes to the continuation of our cherished agricultural history and economy. This easement will ensure that fertile soils will remain in agriculture in our community in perpetuity. In addition, your approval of this conservation easement will support the viability of Oxbow Cattle Company, a grass-finished beef operation owned by Bart and Wendy Morris. Bart and Wendy are outstanding and committed members of our community, and Annie has worked very closely with them, volunteering, hosting events, and sharing knowledge with other farmers and ranchers to enhance the long-term sustainability of our farming community in Missoula County. BART has participated in our farm business planning and farm law workshops and has presented at land access and grazing workshops, including a field day hosted at their Missoula ranch. Their excellent beef can be found in establishments from grocery stores to fine dining restaurants to food trucks across Missoula, and they represent a truly local approach to beef production. We strongly encourage you to support this conservation easement and use the funds you manage to preserve key natural resources while enhancing the long-term viability of an upstanding member of our local food system and agricultural economy. Thank you for your considerations, and if you have any questions or further comments, please feel free to contact Annie. Thanks.
Thank you. Any more public comment? Okay, I don't see any more public comment, so I'm going to close the public hearing and we will go to questions from City Council. No questions from City Council. Mr. Von Lossberg.
Thank you. I move we adopt a resolution of the Missoula City Council to expend up to $175,000 of 2006 open space bond proceeds toward the purchase of a conservation easement across 168 acres of agricultural land and open space on the Oxbow Cattle Company property in the Miller Creek area of Missoula, and pay a portion of the transaction costs associated with purchasing the conservation easement. May I speak to it briefly?
Please.
I just want to say thanks to a number of people. Thank you, Ms. Erickson, for continuing to do your good work and bringing us these projects. Thanks to the folks at Five Valleys Land Trust, phenomenal partner for the community. Thank you for all your good work. Thanks to the folks on the Open Space Advisory Committee for the diligent work they do in reviewing these projects. And most importantly, I want to thank Bart and Wendy Morris. Thanks so much for doing what you do. And you know, there's a lot of reasons to love this project. The mile, I believe, of Miller Creek that runs through here, and the opportunity for riparian protection and restoration is right up there for me in particular. So thanks. It's an easy project to support.
Any more discussion? Ms. Jones?
I just wanted to add that I had the pleasure of going on a field trip to see this property, and it really is a key piece. If you were looking at the maps, its location is just incredibly important. So I'm really glad to be supporting this. And when I had my field trip out to the property, I had the pleasure of meeting Bart and Wendy Morris, and was really impressed by their commitment to this land and these values, and I think things are in really good hands, so I'm very happy to be supporting it tonight.
Additional discussion? I'm excited too. Thanks, everybody. This is great. Okay, we had our public comment and we had our discussion. Let's have a roll call vote.
On the resolution to approve Bentley, Bentley votes yes. Cares votes yes. Hess votes yes. Jones votes yes. Marlar.
Yes.
Marlar votes yes. Sweeney votes yes. Von Lossberg. Von Lossberg votes yes. And Armstrong votes yes. Have 8 ayes and 4 absent.
All right, moving on to communications from the mayor. I'm acting like the mayor tonight, so I'll do my communications first. I hope everyone enjoyed watching the eclipse today. I watched it from Lewis and Clark Caverns State Park, which I'd never really stopped at before, and it was wonderful. Except I didn't know you couldn't see the eclipse from inside the caverns. So no, I'm just kidding. We watched it out at the amphitheater first, and then we went into the caverns. It was great. I also wanted to address, someone spoke in public comment that we have never had a either mayoral or municipal election by mail ballot before, and for the record, that's inaccurate. The last 5 municipal elections were by mail, so doing it by mail is pretty standard operating procedure for us. Thank you, Mr. Nugent, for pointing that out. And let's go on to comments from city council members. Mr. Hess.
Sorry for the quorum scare. I'd like to thank our resident expert on all things space related and our city clerk for pushing me off the fence and encouraging me to drive 529 miles today for 1 minute and 40 seconds that I will never forget. It was very humbling and very awesome.
Just want to thank the Big Sky Equestrian Park for accommodating our 3 a.m. exodus from Lolo with 35 horses last week and letting us stay there for free. Hopefully we get to go back home this week sometime.
I'm going to switch gears today, and I'm going to talk about school. Maybe I'm stealing from Gwen a little bit, but by this time next week, kids will be back in school, and I have my oldest starting kindergarten, and so I know really for the first time ever the anxiety and the work that goes into back to school, and I wanted to tell all students and parents in Missoula that I know it's going to be a great year, and good luck.
I wanted to make 2 comments. First, I wanted to thank the Helena commissioners and mayor for the removal of their Confederate statue monument. And then I would also like to speak regarding the proclamation that was read today. My family and I moved to Missoula 10 years ago because of the University of Montana, and my life and my academic experiences were greatly enriched by faculty and staff and administrators who have since retired. And Dr. Fred Allendorf was my master's advisor, and he's now retired. Dr. Rich Clough served on my doctoral committee, and he also has retired, but there's many more, and I just wanted to acknowledge their contributions to my experiences here in Missoula and thank them. So that's my comments for this evening. Matze Geratz, thank you.
I just wanted to say tonight that I've been missing John Wilkins. Our councilman, John Wilkins, has been gone for a couple of weeks on a family vacation, and we're looking forward to seeing him back soon. And I just wanted to acknowledge that John Wilkins is a veteran, and it is always really helpful having that firsthand experience and his insight into veterans issues, and I think that's a really valuable thing that he brings to council. So we're looking forward to seeing you soon, John.
We don't have any new business. Are there any items to be referred other than those listed? Which are actually, oh, there are some. Do we have any miscellaneous communications, petitions, reports, or announcements? And there's no administratively approved report for this week. I want to thank everybody for coming in. I know there was travel issues and summer is hard, and I'm really glad we were able to achieve our quorum and get the important work done for the community. And we are adjourned.